everyone, and welcome to the Vet View. Today we'll be speaking with Greg Anysz, who is the co-founder of U.S. Veterans Corps and a middle school teacher in North Carolina. So thank you for coming all the way out from North Carolina to see us.
Well, thank you. Thanks for having me.
So now you are an Army veteran.
Correct.
My dad was Army. And so can you tell me when and why you joined the Army? I find that every time I speak to a different veteran, the story is different. So.
Sure. Well, I joined Christmas vacation of my senior year in high school. Prior to that, when I was right around 16 or so, my father lost his job, and it got time to fill out applications for college and to see and apply and do those things. And we kind of sat down, and my father said that, you know, if we need to find college money, we will. That it was one of those first big decisions that I was going to have to make. He'd support me in what I wanted to do. After thinking about it and being in high school and being an okay student, didn't see myself going to college right away. Wanted to travel or do something exciting. You know, we've been doing what we've been told as students, and I wanted to make a choice. So without going to college, the choices were to get a job in town in Pennsylvania, probably at a McDonald's or something, and work my way up through Mick management. Or my father was a Marine during the Vietnam War. He said that any one of the branches of service was also something that we could look into. So we looked at it, and at the time the U.S. Army had the most amount of GI Bill money, or money for college or trade school or something later. So I decided to join the United States Army.
Okay, and so now when you joined, obviously you had maybe a little bit more knowledge than the average person going in because your father was in the Marine Corps. And so when you went in, did you already have in mind what it is that you wanted to do, or was it something where you just showed up and said, hey, whatever you got for me?
Well, a little of both. I really didn't have a direct plan. I did feel that I thought possibly military police, something along the lines of criminal justice, something. I had a friend who was in the Army, older than me, obviously, and was a military police, and then he out-processed and transitioned to the local sheriff's department. So I thought that was probably an option, something to give me some training or skills that I could then transfer to civilian life.
Right.
Got down to the recruiter's station to kind of fill out the form, pick out my MOS, and they had a whole bunch of VHS tapes to look through to show you what the different jobs were that you
You're
had.
dating yourself.
I am dating myself, and that's okay. So with the VHS tapes, you know, there are all kinds of options, everything from combat arms all the way down to logistics, things dealing with even trying to get like law degrees and be a lawyer. I was having a hard time deciding, so I ended up calling my father and say, hey, what do I do in this situation? And he put in the ball in my court and said, well, why not do something that you know you can't do in civilian life? So I went back to some of the tapes and became an armor crew member on an Abrams tank to eventually become a gunner on the Abrams tanks.
Wow, it's very interesting. And so what years were you in? You got out before 9/11, correct?
Correct. I was active duty from 93 through about halfway through 96, 97. And then the inactive ready reserve, as the Army calls it, up until right around January, just before 9/11 happened.
Okay, and so I know that you were stationed, for a while you were stationed over in Korea. And so that's one of the great things about the military, is that you have a chance to travel and you have a chance to live in all these different places. And so what was that like for you as, you know, I would assume either a teenager or you're in your early 20s and, you know, you're in this foreign land and you have all these opportunities. What was it like to experience another culture like that?
It was great. It was very nice to, in a sense, have kind of like a 9-to-5 job, even in another country, on a military base. Be able to explore and experience the culture firsthand. I've always been one to, in a sense, not necessarily go and walk through a museum and read, but to go and sit down at you know, a local, whether it's a bar or an eating establishment, or to literally hop on the train and see where the train takes me and meet people. And Korea offered a lot of that experience, to the point after I was in country for probably 2 or 3 months, I'd pack a bag on a Friday night, I'd hop on the train right outside of base, and I'd pop back into base sometime on Sunday. Travel the whole country.
That's interesting. That's awesome. And so you got out before 9/11, so before the 9/11 GI Bill and everything like that, and before you were in during the Clinton years, and so things
Yes.
were, economy-wise, things were going pretty good then. So so tell me a little bit about your transition experience. Was it something that was harder than what you see veterans going through now, or just generally is it a difficult experience?
Transitioning back out, I did out process from Korea. I would say it was I think a lot easier than it is now. Definitely, not having to deal with being deployed and being involved in any of the fighting that's been happening. From another standpoint to look at it, I was out processing and going straight to college. So I got out in June on terminal leave, ended up around August or so needing to report to go to college, and so I had a few years on the freshman class, but yet I was still a freshman in college. So it was slightly difficult in the beginning, just dealing with a little bit of the age difference. I would almost say more of an experience difference between me and then the average freshman that I ran into when I was in college. Some of their perceptions of how the world works were still trying to be developed, and they hadn't really experienced being away from home. I mean, college, yes, but most of them weren't. I mean, it was a small state school, so most of them were relatively close, maybe an hour and a half away from home, not stationed in a different country, and to be on your own.
Right. And I think that's something that is very prevalent then, and especially now. You have 21-year-old service members who are going back to school, and they've had all this experience. They've seen combat. They've done all these things, and they're sitting in a classroom across from their peers who maybe haven't been able to have those experiences. So you ended up getting your degree. What did you major in?
Actually, I was a dual major when I went through to get both degrees, one in education and one in history. Got a job, moved from Pennsylvania to North Carolina and got a job as a school teacher in the public schools, and then transitioned over to a private education setting where I then went back to school and got a master's degree in education for curriculum and instruction.
Okay, and so I know that now you're teaching 7th grade students in private school, and the name of the school again, because I've heard of the school.
It's a Ravenscroft School in Raleigh, North Carolina.
Okay, and so with 7th graders, I'm sure this is true, but have you used any of your military experience and restraint in the classroom to kind of help you through or give you a unique spin on teaching?
I have. I think a lot of the leadership qualities that are instilled in service members are things that transition well to any type of education setting, to where you're going to be teaching somebody something else. You have to come across from that standpoint that you are the leader, although you're guiding them through that process, and that at certain times they do need to sit down and listen and not act like 7th graders.
Right, exactly. And so something else that you've been involved in is the U.S. Veterans Corps, which has been extremely prevalent in North Carolina. I know that you guys worked with the Operation Home Makeover.
Correct.
Okay, and you guys have also broken a Guinness Book of World Records for a food drive, and so you've done all these great things. What exactly is it that you guys do? And I know you were one of the co-founders, so what made you guys want to start that?
That came from, in the past, volunteering, not myself, 2 of the other co-founders that we have, actually 3 of the other co-founders that we have, started off going down to help rebuild after Hurricane Katrina happened, alongside with the TV show Extreme Home Makeover.
Okay.
A lot of the leadership qualities that they possessed at that time were things that needed to happen down there. They were building in the 9th Ward. It was still actually pretty dangerous down there, so a lot of the military training that they had with, putting up a fence for security to make sure that the lights were turned on, so people weren't trying to steal the supplies down there, were some of the things that they kind of instilled. And they got done with that, and they felt that there was something missing. They liked that kind of mission deployment attitude. Here's our mission. Here's what we need to accomplish. You're in charge of this piece of it, and let's get that accomplished. The one thing that a lot of veterans sometimes feel that loss of is sometimes that leadership and that camaraderie you feel about kind of that deployment attitude.
Right.
Here's what we're here to do. Here's your job, let's get it done, let's come back, talk about it, and move on again.
Just cut and clear.
Through the organization, they decided that it would be great to have some sort of organization that all veterans can be a member of, and we then go out and do community service within the local community, primarily to help out other veterans. Everything from helping them transition and move. I mean, obviously being in North Carolina with the amount of military posts that we have just in North Carolina,
right,
to help them transition to civilian life and literally help them move into an apartment, transition that way. Other things that we've done as well, help them be put in contact with some resources to help them, whether it's dealing with education or veterans benefits. And then as well, just help out the local community where we can. There's a couple other programs where we have Operation Coming Home, which is a lot of the local builders would come through, and a builder would be chosen to provide a home for a wounded warrior, and there would be a pool that they would go through, and we'd interview people and select a candidate, and then we would give a house to that individual.
Oh, wow.
And as we would go through and do a lot of the help with staging the kind of event and the key giving ceremony and things of that nature. The food drive that you talked about as well was done with the School of Science and Math, and it was the most amount of food donated in a 24-hour period. And again, with that mission deployment attitude, we were there basically just to be the heavy lifters,
right,
to help kind of organize it a little bit. And it ended up we got there and we took charge, and we had people driving forklifts, working in the back of the truck. So a lot of that, again, military experience. The thing that some veterans feel that I think that is that loss that they feel sometimes, was something that kind of binds us together a little bit.
right.
And we look forward to all the events that we have.
Absolutely. Well, I know you guys are doing great things, and congratulations on all the strides and the awards that you guys have gotten. A presidential medal,
Presidential Volunteer Service Award as well. Guinness Book of World Records. We've also been helping out with Kangaroo Express in a Salute Our Troops tour that we have within North Carolina and a lot of the other surrounding states.
All right, that's awesome. And so I know that with the Kangaroo Express, you actually brought it over. I don't know if you guys can see, but on the table here we have all of our military coins set out, and they actually brought a coin that Kangaroo Express designed for you.
Right, I do believe that's the coin that we had from our Salute Our Troops tour last year, which there'll be a new coin that comes out. I think they might have been kicking off, I think, this weekend.
Okay, great. And so we'll have a photo of this on the Facebook page so you guys can see that up close and personal. And so thank you so much for coming on today, Greg. And as we close out at the end of every show, I always ask, what advice would you have for veterans who are nearing their transition and who are interested in going into the teaching career like you did, or starting a successful nonprofit? What would you say to them?
Well, getting ready to go out, and if you're someone who likes to work with other individuals, maybe even some young children, middle school age children or high school, and if you like to teach people how to do things, it doesn't really necessarily have to be in a traditional school setting, but an education degree allows you to use a lot of that experience in kind of planning through that this is what we want to accomplish. Now, how do we plan that to get this group of people to understand it and learn it and be successful in the end? So that's something that I think is really, when we can teach someone else how to do something, it's something that's enjoyable. At least I get enjoyment out of being able to see the progress that students make kind of as a result of what I've been able to do for them.
Right.
With the idea of starting a nonprofit, that was one of our other co-founders knows a lot more about the nonprofit side of that. Group yourself with other veterans. Find out what your common interests are. Find out what you have in the local community or really, find out where there's a need, and then see if you can't find a way to meet that need, even if it's on an individual basis, or by talking with other veterans in the local community.
That's excellent advice, absolutely. And so now, as you know, the show is just not for veterans, it's for civilians as well, and we're working to put names and faces to the title veteran, and right now you are the name and face of veteran. So what would you say to civilians who maybe don't know a lot about the veteran community and who we are?
Well, there's a lot of us out there. We don't look alike, we don't talk alike, we don't act alike, only when we need to. And there's a lot of us that have a lot of really good, powerful leadership skills. We have a lot of good ideas, and sometimes we just need to be asked to step forward and to kind of accept that challenge, or to see where there is a need and ask a veteran. They'll probably know someone that can get it done for you. If not, they're going to try and get it done on their own.
Absolutely. And so, Greg, thank you so much for coming in and speaking with us. Now, if someone wants to contact you directly for information on maybe if they're a veteran and they're looking to get into the educational arena or anything like that, are you on LinkedIn?
No, actually I'm not. But the best way to contact me is through the U.S. Veterans Corps, which the web address, we can post that online.
Absolutely.
But it's you can find our website. It's myusvc.com.
All right, that's great. So, guys, thank you for coming in today. You can get in touch with Greg at the U.S. Veterans Corps website at myusvc.com, and we'll see you next time on The Vet View.